Good morning to everybody and welcome to the last session of the webinar series Innovation for SDGs Inspirational Tools Towards Sustainability Challenges, an event organized by the sectoral hubs of the University of Girona in collaboration with the Global University Network for Innovation, abbreviated as GUNI. We will thank Tripto Lemos Foundation for its collaboration in organizing today's webinar. The question here is why it has been so important for the University of Girona organizing this event. The answer is straightforward: the commitment of the university to take action in front of the emergency of directing researchers' interest towards solving SDGs challenges, as well as interacting with different agents and detecting needs and opportunities in the territory and worldwide. For 2 weeks, different experts have covered various topics all related to the SDGs and achievement. The first part of the series began with webinars related to sustainability and development, co-creation and responsible research, and communication and advocacy for the Agenda 2030. The second series of sessions covered more specific topics like inequality and health, water management in cities, regenerative tourism, and robotics for nature, representing a vast array of disciplines and challenges. Each presentation has given ideas to promote knowledge transfer and overcoming obstacles regarding the accomplishment of the Sustainable Development Goals. As I've already mentioned, for the University of Girona, it was very important to organize this event. However, these kinds of events wouldn't make sense without you, the participants. For that reason, we want to thank you for attending this webinar, and we encourage you to take part in the debate, since your knowledge and perspective are always very welcome and for sure will enrich the discussions. So before introducing the speakers of the day, let me share some brief housekeeping information for this session. Please remind that the session will be recorded. Once the session is finalized, we will upload the video on the website and it will be shared with those who couldn't attend the event. If you have any questions for the speakers, please write them down in the questions and answer section, and anytime during this session. You will find the Q&A here nearby the chat. 2 or 3 questions will be shared with the speakers just after their presentation and the others during the debate. And the last thing is that if you want to share the event via social media, please use the hashtag UDGs for SDGs and GUNI SDGs. Don't worry if you haven't catch both hashtags, my colleagues will share this information on the chat. So all this being said, now it's time to introduce today's topic and speakers. The title of the session of today is Improving the Sustainability of the Food Production Systems Along the Entire Value Chain. The diverse and inspiring presentation of Veerle Mommaerts, Svetlana Eskebaek and Arnau Queralt will highlight emerging opportunities as well as reveal further challenges for future and innovative projects. The first speaker will be Veerle Mommaerts. Veerle, thank you very much for joining us today. Veerle is currently the Global Key Relation Manager at Bayer in Belgium. She obtained her PhD in Biological and Bioengineering Sciences in 2010, followed by a postdoctoral degree with a key focus on bumblebees. Committed to science-based approach and had passion for agriculture, she switched to BioBest NV, a company focused on integrated pest management strategies and biocontrol systems. Last year, she started as Global Key Relation Manager at Bayer, and her many years of experience in the agribusiness enables her to connect 2 important dots: consumer demands with agricultural challenges to deliver sustainable solutions. Thank you again, Veerle, for joining us. The floor is yours, and participants, we already said before, if you have any questions, please write them on the Q&A section for debating later on. So, Veerle, it's your time. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, wait. Give me a moment. I'm struggling again. Give me a moment. It's coming. Yeah, sorry. So really, thank you. Thanks to the organization for giving me the opportunity to be here today, although in a virtual setting. I'm really looking forward to hear also the other experts and learn from them. So what I want to share today with you is it's clear that the way we produce food, the way we consume food, our diet, how it is composed, it's all under debate. And so what I want to share is how bio responds to these overarching challenges that humanity is facing, not only when we speak about food, but also, let's say, climate change, feeding an ever-growing population, and staying within the planetary boundaries, and also how we want to drive jointly with all the actors a sustainable transformation of global food systems by including farmers of all sizes. This is important because, as our CEO said, I think it's a year ago, as a global leader of crop protection solutions, seeds and technology, we are convinced that every investment in innovation should be an investment in sustainability. So first of all, I would briefly like to start with touching the challenges that we are facing and also identify some way forwards, following by briefly explaining the transformational commitments that we from a buyer end have set and how they are connected with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For each of these commitments, I will then explain the levers that we see, but also some tangible examples, because it's clear that today there are many drivers for the transformation, but also the real motor is actually collaboration. Collaboration will allow us to be more impactful. So when it comes to the challenges, I think it's clear that we face a number of challenges. Today, we have a growing population which require more food, actually 50% more food and feed to meet the demands by 2050. We also have to confront the aspect that there are limited resources available for agriculture, with 1/3 of the arable land and, of course, more or less 75% of freshwater stocks that are currently devoted to agriculture. But it's not all. We have climate change, we have land loss, and we have biodiversity reduction. And all of them are putting pressure on the ecosystems, and actually the ecosystems that we need to support an increased food and feed production. So when we then speak about the transformational commitments that we have set as buyer, it's clear that we have set them in 3 different areas. We want to advance a carbon zero agriculture, but also a more inclusive future for agriculture. And here I just gave the 3 of them very briefly. One of them is dealing with carbon, and actually we want to reduce the field greenhouse gas emissions, and this by 2030 with 30%. Of course, this is again touch basing on different SDGs. For example, a responsible consumption and production, but also climate action and taking responses towards life on land. The second one is dealing with a reduction of the environmental impact of crop protection products. We do know they are highly debated today. Here we have set a number, a reduction of 30%, again, by 2030. Also, this one can be linked very closely and will support a lot of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And the last one is really more in the space of the smallholder farmers, where we want to provide access for these small farmers towards sustainable agricultural solutions. We want to empower them, and actually we want to empower more than 100 million smallholder farmers. Here, this is again, as a previous one, touching on many sustainable development goals, one of them being no poverty, zero hunger, but also promoting good health and well-being. Again, here it's important also to underline that partnership to be successful is key. So when we go into more detail into this, let's say, transformational commitments, it's for us, it's clear. To shape what is truly possible, we need to remove the distinction between what makes us profitable and what makes us sustainable. And here we must recognize that every commitment to a better world is a commitment to innovation. And that's why we have set these 3 different commitments. Of course, when we talk about carbon zero future, it's true that today there has already been a great progress made by agriculture in the overall carbon footprint. But again, here a collective approach is necessary with farmers and partners do even better. Of course, this will require innovation, but also advancements in the space of agricultural technologies. Here again, this will be a holistic approach where we bring in together plant genetics, where we bring in together digital solutions that allow us for monitoring, but as well as new crop solutions, for instance, biologics, but also chemicals. It's indeed important to look into this from a holistic approach. A second commitment is then more in, as I discussed already, reducing the impact of crop protections on the environment. And actually, what the aim is that we produce higher yielding crops with fewer natural resources inputs. Of course, this is again something that we have been doing already for many years, but now it's the first time that we really put a number behind this. And the last one regarding the improvement of the livelihood of smallholders, I think it's everybody is agreeing with it. It's important that we, when we talk about the transformation of a sustainable food system, that we look to farmers of all sizes. And also there is a lot of improvement to make where we can help them in growing their business, growing their communities, and growing the livelihood. The goal is here indeed to reach these 100 million smallholder farmers. And again, it's not so easy. So we will need different tools here. We will need training. We will need to help them and find ways how we can support them with technical advice, but also create for them a market access. And here it will be key again to work together with partners on this. So when we speak about, for instance, this greenhouse gas emissions and reduction with 30% of field greenhouse gas footprint, we speak about a Fieldgate approach. So we will look to all the farming practices and we will look how they can be improved in order to either improve carbon sequestration on one hand, or on the other end, how we can reduce the emissions. And when we speak about emissions, it's clear that we don't only look to the carbon dioxide, but for instance, that we also look to methane, which is a much more important molecule, let's say, and a big driver of this carbon footprint. The reason why we are working on this, I think I don't need to explain. It's clear that everybody understands the resilience of our and importance of our climate. So for us, what are the levers of success that we would like to bring forward into this topic? Actually, there are many, and I have listed them here, and I will not go through all of them. But maybe just one to set the scene is to go into depth into this crop genetics. So an example that I want to share with you today is I was in Asia a long time ago, before we were all hit with COVID. And we were there in South Vietnam, actually. And here you can see a lot of shrimp agriculture. And you see that this is really the driver in agriculture. But of course, using this land, farmers cannot use it to grow other crops. So they were interested in rice. And so we have been working on developing hybrids that can indeed bear these high salt conditions. And as such, while a farmer is growing or cultivating, let's say, on one end, the rice, he can still have his shrimp agriculture at the same place. And as such, you don't need to have more land for actually your produce. Another element which is key for us is this digital transformation. And we see it already in our daily life. Data science and innovative digital tools are enable us in many ways. It's not only enabling us in our daily life, but also for farmers, it will allow them to make more informed decisions about how to grow crops, like for instance, the smart tools that help us making decisions. The digital farming is enabling individual solutions tailored to each farmer's need. The right product in the right place at the right time and in the right amount. It's clear that the modern tools such as digital farming and precision application, but also biotechnology and the combination with good agronomic practices in integrated, for instance, weed and pest management strategies will allow us to reduce and more efficient use as well of crop protection products. And one of the examples that I want to bring forward in this case is climate field view. It's one of our tools, but again, there are many other tools available today. But what it's doing, it's really connected with all the machines that farmers are using in the field. So while these machines are in the field, they are capturing data. And this data is brought to a platform, and this can then be used for modeling. And as such, this can help farmers in a way, because now they will see the value of certain farming practices that they have implemented. And of course, when you can communicate about values, you have a higher likelihood of also getting adoption by farmers. We briefly spoke now about this precision agriculture and what it can bring, but also from a society end and a consumer end, there is an increasing demand in this digital transformation. For instance, this end-to-end traceability. Consumers want to know how the food is produced, from where it comes, etc. And also this will be an enabler and a stimulator for a sustainable transformation of the food system. So we spoke now very specifically, okay, carbon footprint, what are the different levers that we can have? We have identified there the digital aspect, but the other aspect, which is key to me, is as well the innovations. Innovations will be a big driver. Here I just give a few examples of what we are working on from a buyer end and across different regions that we are looking to our, let's say, crops and how we can improve them in this space. For instance, in soybeans, we have been able to produce varieties which can really reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see it here with an equivalent of 3.3 million cars, which is a lot. But not only reduce the greenhouse emissions just by plant breeding, let's say, but also if you produce higher quality seeds, for instance, and this is an example for US, you can have a better yield in corn in this case, but you can also have a better carbon sequestration. So to me, these innovations into this plant genetics or into this crop area is certainly an important lever for obtaining a lower carbon footprint. And maybe to give you one tangible example in this case, so we spoke about digital, we spoke about innovations in the sense of crop genetics. For us today, I think we might not realize always what the challenges are that some regions have when it comes to transport. Here it's an example of Kolar tomato market. It's located in the south of India, in the Karnataka state. And actually the closest largest city is Bangalore, where the produce arrives with local traders 2 days after reaching this Kolar market. 300 tons of tomatoes are handled through this major market every day. And so this is one of the main sales and packaging sets. You can see actually the delivery truck on the left with crates coming in from groups of growers, but also in the center, the newspaper lined packaging crates where sorted produce is packed to send in large truck to the purchases. So you see that this huge challenge and actually this of transport is having a huge impact because a lot of food is just lost due to this because the transportation is conducted under ambient condition and it's a long distance. And so what we have been working on together with the people in this region is, okay, to identify what are then the main diseases. And we built in resistance, for instance, towards tomato wilt. But we didn't only build in this disease resistant, but we also created a better firmness, which is important because if you have such a long transportation route, it's important that your fruits are very firm, because this will result in a much improved shelf life. And actually, we have been measuring this. We can improve the shelf life with double, actually. But not only these elements were adapted, but also the adaptability to heat stress, as well as the red color was improved to create a better attractiveness with consumers. So this is an example how actually plant genetics can help improving a sustainable food system. The second commitment, and I will be very brief on this one because this is more for the internal pipeline in the first step, is that we have set a commitment to reduce the impact of our crop protection products on the environment. Of course, today there are practices in place that farmers can use, and I think it's also our responsibility to promote this even further and also offer trainings in the sense of product stewardship. And also to work on precision farming. But besides that, it's also an important element when we speak about our own pipeline. When we bring products on the market, we have set a commitment, okay, we will evaluate these products and see what is their impact on the environment. And as such, we want to make sure that what is available for farmers and what we develop and bring to the market is actually having a reduced impact on the environment. This third commitment, which is more in the space of the smallholders, I think I can just start again with an example. If you are thinking about smallholders, and you think about a farm in the sub-Saharan Africa, you can think, okay, it can be key to shape a more sustainable future for this farm. Okay, but what will be the difference? The difference will be if you start with this one, you need to realize it's not just this only farm. There are many more like this. There are actually more than 550 million of these smallholder farms across the different regions in our world. And when we speak about small scale operations, we speak about 10 hectares or even less. But it's important to realize that they make up about a quarter of the global farmland. And as such, with a collective impact on our environment and an exponential effect on their livelihoods all over the world, small farms can really drive a big change. For us, we call it actually the smallholder effect. Because it's clear that all farmers all over the world, they face a lot of challenges. But many small farms have limited access to solutions they need. They are confronted with extreme weather conditions, to pest diseases, to uncertain markets. So it's clear that farming is risky as it is vital. And so for us, it's really about, okay, how can we help these smallholder farmers? And we really look here to the lower and middle income country smallholders, where we want to help them in supporting programs where we can bring innovations to them. But also when we develop ourselves something that this is really targeting the needs of these smallholders. It's not only about what we can provide, but also how we can help them further by setting up partnerships that can also help them in giving them access to finance and markets, because actually these are key for them to improve their livelihood and as such their income as well. And maybe just one example, a very nice initiative we took in this space together with a lot of other partners. It's the initiative which is called the Better Life Farming Alliance. It's an initiative that was launched in 2018 with a lot of other partners, financial partners, IFC, but also Netafim, Swiss Re, amongst other. If you speak just about the global partners, but also some local partners were involved. And the objective here was that we found a way to support the smallholder farmers, and this in a very holistic approach. So on one hand, we want to improve their crop yields, but also on the other hand, to improve their farm incomes through sustainable agriculture, but also agri-entrepreneurship. This concept is based on an ecosystem of a global and a local partners providing these holistic solutions for smallholders in, and we call it hubs or dedicated centers. So these centers, they are actually managed by people who are trained, agri-entrepreneurs, as we call them. And each of these centers, they cover a group of more or less 500 farmers. And these 500 farmers, they come from 5 to 6 surrounding villages. And they are actually acting, this center, as a focal point for the farmers for education or getting access to customized agronomic solutions, insurance, finance, market access, fair prices, new partnerships, and so on and so forth. And as you can see here with this initiative, although it was launched in 2018, we can already give some numbers in 2020. In 2020, we were successful in Asia Pacific, where we could install with partners these centers in different countries, going from India to Indonesia to Bangladesh. And for instance, for India, we were able to install 350 of these centers. By such, we could reach 200,000 smallholder farmers. So such as an example. Of course, we don't stop here. Right? For 2021, we aim to even double this and also to expand to other geographies, because smallholders, they are not only in APAC, but they are also in Africa, Latin, actually they're all over the world. Of course, if you think about these smallholders, you can even go one step further. When you look to smallholders and different regions, we need to realize that when we look to agriculture, that still women play a very important role in this. And actually, when we took some numbers and we did some research, let's say, we could find that 43% of the agriculture labor force in developed countries are women, but that there was also a 20 to 30% average yield gap between men and women. And such, we need to find ways as well to include more women into agriculture and give them access to trainings, give them access to agricultural solutions. And again, for us, it's key because it's also connecting back to the United Sustainable Development Goals being set before as zero hunger and gender equality. But I think an important number, and I was really astonished when I saw it, is if you could really work on an agriculture that is more inclusive for women, you could improve actually with 100 to 150 million people would be lifted out of hunger. And this is actually for me a very astonishing number. And an example that I here want to bring is, it's from India actually. There we identified really that there was a very gender sensitivity within our better life farming concept. Here you see a lady, Kalyani Singh. She actually is a tomato grower in Jharkhand in India. And the challenge that we have here now with our better life farming concept is that due to the local cultural situations, women feel very uncomfortable when they attend trainings or demonstrations or go to these centers when they are run by males, when they are run by these agri-entrepreneurs, as we call them. And so this was also the case for this lady here. And she came to us, she started telling our story, and she said, yeah, look, I followed actually my family and started a farming, and I struggled a lot of challenges. As a female bioagronomist, we have her introduced to the concept of the better life farming. And she said, okay, this is very interesting, and I really want to practice what I learned here for myself. And as such, she started implementing these things, and she could see the value in just her 3-acre farm. So she said, okay, I have now achieved a better yield, an increase actually of 50%, an increase of 40% of my farm income. And actually, due to the fact that I was in this Better Life Farming Center in connection with a woman, I was able to reach this, because if it was a male, I would not have been able to do so. And she actually said, I want to follow this example. And now she has actually owner of her own Better Life Farming Center in Namkun. And for her, it's fantastic because she always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but also she can serve now other smallholder farmers in her community with valuable information. And so you see how important it is to also include the cultural differences when you want to improve the sustainability at farm level. And she's not alone. If we take the example now of India, we can as well take the example in Ivory Coast. In Ivory Coast, you have again that a lot of women are living below the poverty line, actually 75%. But there is also a huge income gap, 60% less than males is the income for women. And when we look to this, again, this gender gap, also Ivory Coast faces the 11th highest gender gap in the world. So what we did here is we really provided these women access to training, to seeds, to good agricultural practices, to safe use of products, and as well, we installed a value chain. It was so not only that these women started growing vegetables, learned how to do it, but we were also making sure that they were people to offtake this crop, and as such that they could be sold with supermarkets, and as such we were able to have a percentage of 95 to 97% that was obtained through this initiative. And actually the rest of it, that was then used to feed the family. So again, here it's important that we have partners on board, because partners help to connect with women throughout the food value chain and support the project with knowledge and with resources. Like for instance, Netafim, they helped us with all this irrigation, which is very challenging when we speak about Africa, for instance. And again, here, access to training, it's key to them. And it's giving actually a lot of opportunities to these women. And as such, we could actually improve the livelihood of the woman over there, in the sentence that they receive the same opportunities as the men. But of course, it's key, and it is already mentioned in many of these projects, that partners are important. And when we think about the transformation of a sustainable global food system, it's important to realize that this is a very nice vision that we all need to aim for, but it's something that we cannot do alone. So to turn these today's impossibilities into tomorrow's breakthroughs, we need to require next level collaborations with scientists, innovators, farmers, and so on. But it will also require an open and transparent dialogue that builds trust with consumers. So we really encourage knowledge sharing through partnerships, and this with all actors along the value chain, to create value from farmer to consumer, and as such to build together a sustainable and consumer-centric food production. And actually in Bayer, we have this initiative already for many years, where we have called the Food Chain Partnership, where we really work together with all actors of the value chain, trying to understand what are their challenges and trying to come up with win-win situations that really drive a sustainable food system. Of course, here it's important that we acknowledge that although we are Bayer and we have a lot of expertise in-house, we do not have all the expertise. So bringing expertise on the table, around the table, is key to be successful. And this is an example which is, I think, fits perfectly in this last observation, is the Global Alliance TR4. So maybe for your knowledge, bananas are the 4th most important crop in the world. So after wheat, rice, and maize, 90% of the world's bananas are eaten in poor countries. Of course, today, these banana productions, they are confronted with fusarium. We call it as well TR4. It's a fungal disease, and that is actually threatening the future of the banana production worldwide. And therefore also the health and the livelihood of all those who are directly or indirectly dependent on this crop. So TR4 today has been reported in 90 countries across most continents, and more than 400 million people worldwide depend on bananas for food and income, and in some parts of the world, populations derive more than 1/6 of their calorific intake from bananas, meaning that entire food chain could be jeopardized. And so in January 2020, we started inviting key stakeholders and researchers to first meeting to discuss really this challenge. And it was very nice because the outcome was actually the alliance of, a global alliance, I must say, against TR4, this formation. And today, if you look it up, you will see that already 20 organizations are participating in this platform. This platform is being led by the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, also named ICHA. And it's actually bringing all expertises together, because it's important to realize that with this TR4, it will be, again, the smallholder farmers in the developing countries that will be hit the hardest. So here we really need to work together in a pre-competitive and a more coordinated multi-stakeholder approach to confront this challenge, to confront the commercial and food security challenge of the banana sector. And it's key that we need to start building concrete solutions and concrete actions to manage this TR4 disease. And that's actually why these different expertises are so important, because some are more focusing on the training aspect, whereas others are focused on finding solutions, whereas others are more focusing on the genetics of the banana. So to us, it's important when you work on a transformation of a sustainable food system that you stay holistic and that you stay tangible. And that's why across the world, we work with the concept of bio-forward farming. It's actually farmers who work with us. It's we are not owning these farms. These farmers are front runners often. They see the added value of sustainable agriculture, and they are willing to just try out, because often it's like that. Because what is the aim of the bio-forward farming concept is really to bring sustainable projects into practice. So to learn from what is in a theoretical way developed, what it gives when we bring it into the farm and when we implement it in practice. So it's not to just get knowledge there and keep it within the, let's say, the walls. No, the idea of this concept is as well to be a communication platform to exchange best practices with, again, all the actors of the value chain. These platforms are also platforms where we have set a lot of partnerships. As I said, it's important that we bring expertise together and that we drive innovation, but that we drive it together by bringing a platform that allows to share insights and that allows also to create dialogue. So to me, it's key, I think, that to be successful, we need two elements. We need innovation, but we also need collaboration. And that's actually where I would like to end with today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Veerle, for your presentation and ideas. It is really interesting to see that a little company like Bayer, little company in crop solutions, has important transformational commitments by the 2030 agenda. I like the ideas of innovation and collaboration. You have remarked a lot these both ideas, and I think that they are very, very important. We have time now for 2 or 3 questions. Let me see. Okay, we can start with one question posted by Yvonne Colomet. How do you think the Green Deal can help to improve the sustainability of the food production system along the entire value chain?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Green Deal is actually setting targets regarding biodiversity, regarding carbon, but also I don't want to say only the Green Deal, but also in general the farm to fork and the Green Deal in a combination, let's say. It's really setting a scene for creating awareness how we are producing food today. And I think here this will, yeah, a lot. Yeah, I think we all need to go back and think how we work today, and we already realize that change is needed, and this change will be enabled through technology, digital technology, but also through a more holistic approach, where we will then again see that yeah, expertise is necessary if we want to target this in a holistic way, because the Green Deal, it's going to indeed make sure that our food is produced in a way that it takes into account the planetary boundaries. And this is actually crossing then the soil health, but also the water use and other resources that are being used. And as I mentioned in the presentation, it's something that we link very strongly when we speak about our commitment with the carbon topic. Of course, this is now from our end, but if you now look to what is happening in Europe and you see how other companies are in the food value chains are setting their own commitments at a global scale, let's say, I think that the Green Deal and the farm to fork policy-driven decisions have set an example for the rest of the world, and are will drive a lot of the changes to come in the food value chain.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question. Then I can give you now this. It's posted by Carmen Carretero. And how do you think distribution systems should be changed to improve the economic performance of smallholder farmers?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so today I think I don't know to what extent people are in contact with smallholders, but today they need to get training. They need to understand what they are doing. And when they understand what they are doing, they will be also more, let's say, how can I say it in a better way? So I think it's training is key, but also access to innovation, access to agricultural solutions are necessary to drive sustainable agriculture and as such a sustainable food production with smallholders. Of course, today there is a lot of people in the field that help them already with training and creating awareness on pest and diseases, as well as on soil, etc. But still, this is the training concept. We also need to make sure that it's in real life implemented at smallholder levels. And I think this is a task for all of us to try to drive. How can we create this level of implementation at smallholder level?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Veerle. We have a few more questions, but we should follow with them during the debate after the last presentation. Again, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, now it's time for the next presentation. We are pleased to introduce Svetlana Eskebaek. Hello, Svetlana, and thank you very much for joining us today. Svetlana is an electronic engineering and she has a master's degree in sustainable development. Currently, she's working at Packbridge, a cluster organization that is part of a Swedish innovation system and is responsible for business development. She has a solid experience in strategic development, sales and marketing and partnership building. She is passionate for sustainable development and firmly believes that meetings and networking like this facilitate innovation. So Svetlana, with further ado, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. I think it's still good morning, everybody, and very warm greeting from Sweden. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'm always excited to present to like experienced and professional audience, and a little nervous. So let's see what I can bring to the table, and big thanks to Veerle, so because I'm going to share some of the points and bring something more about collaboration and cooperation. So I'm sharing my screen now. So I hope you can see me here soon, and we will start. So we are talking about packaging trends, sustainability, and innovation today. My presentation, I will give you a short introduction of Packbridge, when we can talk about trends and how packaging industry influenced by trends. We will talk about sustainable packaging. I will introduce you a case, and we will talk about innovation in the value chain. I'm planning some kind of ambitious agenda, so I hope everything will go smooth and technical spirit will be on our side. A couple of words about Packbridge. Who we are. We established in 2010. We are a neutral non-profit member organization, and we are a part of the Swedish Innovation System Cluster Initiative. We are probably the biggest packaging cluster in Europe, but as you can understand, it's not about being the biggest, it's about what competences and uniqueness we have. And we are saying that we are pretty unique because we unite the entire packaging value chain. So we start with raw material producers, machinery producers, converters, labeling, brand owners, and we go all the way to recycling. We also include academia, public sector, and we establish our startup community. One more thing, that packaging industry is traditionally man-dominated, and by the request of our members, we establish a network for professional women in packaging. So what you can probably see that in this value chain, we gather and accumulate knowledge from the different parts of the value chain and present different perspectives. It gives us opportunity to address and drive questions bigger than a single organization can solve. And what are the challenges and questions? Sustainable development goals, directions we are heading and must go to fulfill. Some of the goals are more challenging for the industry to reach and fulfill. And for instance, we can talk about recycling targets. There are already apprehensions that the industry might miss some of them. And to demonstrate it in the perspective, just to give you some examples, by 2030, all packaging brought to the market has to be produced of recyclable or renewable materials. And in 4 years, 2025, all EU's member countries have to reach 50% of plastic recycling, and it is to comply with new measurement terms. It's a very tough challenge for all EU countries. And again, in perspective, if we talk about Sweden, with new measurement terms, our reported recycling rate of 47 of plastic will drop to 10-20. It's preliminary evaluation. And to meet this target, we need to increase collected rate at least to 80%. So another thing, packaging industry is traditional, inertial. It's not very easy to move. It demands big investment. Equipment should last 15-25 years. It's pretty costly to do wrong. So we all want to know what is the future and how we secure our competitive advantages and existence of our companies. For that matter, we have trends. No wonder that the huge research institutes and big consultant companies watch trends. And why? Because they organize, support, create transparency for development and innovation of 21st century. Those who understand today what could be commonplace tomorrow can take an important step towards the present and thereby pave the way into the future. I personally very much like this trend hierarchy and kind of encourage everybody to put it in perspective and in systematic way. So there are 4 categories of trends: fat, microtrend, macrotrend, and megatrend. And what is very important, wherever industry we operate, is it packaging, is it pharma, agriculture, food, fashion, whatever, these trends are there. They penetrate and influence their development. And if you think about fad, it's widespread but short. For example, it can be fashion, and of course in packaging industry, we have fashion too. It can be color, material, different design. Microtrend lasts a few years, most active, most diverse, influential in given sphere. And it can be like 3D printing, virtual reality. More or less all of the industry tried to use that tools. We have to remember that fat trends and microtrends can develop and go further to macro trends, or they can die. And as an example of this development can be, for example, artisan developed from the hippie community, and now that is kind of suggestion that artisan, at least in our part of the world, can be included as a macro trend. So macro trends, pervasive and persistent shift on the global level. And here is digitalization. And to be in agreement with Veerle, it's exactly so. Whatever we are, is it agriculture, is it food industry, the digitalization is very important part of the development. And megatrend, it's something that we know with great confidence about the future. Climate change. And that is a lot, again, put pressure. What we think about the resource, legislation, our moral obligation, and so on. And I would like to invite you to the good old times before Corona and give you very short retrospective. We are not staying here longer, but it's McKinsey report 2019 time frame, 5-10 years. And you can see if you go e-commerce everywhere, changing consumer preferences, fast-moving consumer good and retail margin compression, sustainability, and digitalization or Internet of Things. And let's see what is going now. So we enter Corona time, and sustainability requirement increasing at every step of the value chain. As new normal, a new trend has emerged, and it's new hygiene concern. It's never been before. It's very high influential during pandemic, and as a new normal, it is going to stay. Widespread e-commerce, we will talk about separately. Per se, it's like big subject and take long time. Rapidly changing consumer preferences. We go forth and back. Now, new normal adopting, talk about it a little later too, and it's going to stay as a new normal. Fast-moving consumer goods and retail margin compression high now, and it's going to be even higher, and digitalization of packaging. Not so high now, but it will catch up. So e-commerce is everywhere. Even in the most positive prognosis, nobody has expected so fast expansion. In 2010, total growth of e-commerce was 2.5 times. In Sweden, e-commerce growth was 40% in 2020. What is kind of interesting to know or consider that in the long term, the majority of products across all categories will go through the online channel. And as the next normal, e-commerce will have significant implication and put pressure on the packaging industry. And where it can happen, we can think about particularly on primary and secondary packaging. E-commerce packaging is currently required to be 3-4 times more robust than traditional on-shelf packaging. You're probably familiar with Amazon demands. Indeed, e-commerce approved packaging will need to be tested to prevent product damages, optimized for e-channels, and technically enabled for filling speed and productivities. Still, most packaging has not been optimized for e-commerce channel, and as a result, many manufacturers will seek the packaging that am I lost? Sorry. Will seek the packaging that optimize e-commerce performance. And when we talk to our members, we can always very often hear e-commerce is everybody's problem, but let's paraphrase it. Isn't it a great opportunity to enter e-commerce channel for the company now? Consumer has adopted new pattern on behavior, and they enter grocery category that's never been before. It's going to stay as a new normal, and grocery online sales in Sweden almost double, and it is 95% now. So what it is about packaging? Our loved packaging. Packaging is a service to bundle to protect the product. But it is not only about some materials that's wrapped around the product. It's about brand reputation, customer loyalty, marketing, and it is a resource that we always very often forget. And look at this picture, it's from the Netherlands. So they paint all the transport collecting trash in gold to remind that this resource worth of gold. So I would call it unimposing communication, great example. What is in the packaging? What is trending now as a response of Corona and hygiene concern, as I told about trend? Lots of retailers ended offering loose products or in bulk. It means that single portion packaging, even more actual, at least now, resealable packaging. So again, hygiene concern and easy to empty and open packaging. It's like user-friendly packaging. If we talk about reusable packaging, that is very interesting. E-commerce, Zara has introduced a packaging that lasts 2 cycles, and Repack, it's a Finnish company, introduced packaging that can last 20 cycles in e-commerce. Interesting development in takeaway and restaurants. They tried to introduce reusable packaging, building different infrastructure behind. How can we do it? It can be a response on single-use plastic ban directive, but anyway, it's very interesting development. Here, what is not so much new, it has been before, and we can see it's modified control atmosphere packaging. I will show you a later example of skin packaging, oxygen scavenger technology, smart labels, smart indication, sensors, and we expect when radio frequency identification will be cheaper, we'll see them more in the packaging industry too. 70% of all packaging is used for the food. And I'm sorry if you're tired of this example, but I think it's still so actual and so interesting to see it. If we use plastic wrap around cucumber, we can prolong the shelf life from 3 days to 14 days. And you can see the resource we need to grow the product and the packaging. The same situation it is with banana. So if you wrap them in the film, in the plastic film, they last about 2 weeks. And to say nothing about heavier products for the environment as milk or beef, because production of 1 liter of milk has 20 times more impact on the environment than packaging. And 1 kilo of beef, it's 370 times the carbon footprint of the packaging used to protect it. So let's put packaging in the perspective. And here we can see a pie diagram. You can see how much we use for the product in the chocolate bar, and 1% is packaging. In accordance with Denkstad reports, Stop Waste Save Food, general packaging carbon footprint in EU is 1.252%. It's in EU and it's packaging, while 0.7 are caused by food packaging. Food production accounts for around 1/4, 26% of global green gas emission. So environmental issues are great opportunity. So the companies, the industry should be more transparent, come with the message, explain about role of the packaging, maybe even be more aggressive and save the food, save the world. It's how we still consider packaging. Well, I'm sorting it. It's not picture from my house, but anyway, so it irritates consumer that we have this trash. And 74% of Swedes consider packaging as trash. Of course, it's unacceptable when more than 70% of world packaging appears in the world oceans or go to landfill. But we know that Asia and Africa cause 90% of plastic pollution in the world's ocean. Maybe we should do something there and take our responsibility. In Sweden, less than 1% appears in nature landfill, but a part of the packaging that incinerates is still too big. Anyway, what I don't like, I hope you're in agreement with me, that these pictures make the industry kind of a scapegoat. And we know the industry works hard. We all work hard to prevent this happening. What is unfortunate that these pictures trigger emotional and irrational decisions. And we need more information based on fact. And as I've said, packaging is responsible for 2% of carbon footprint, while food waste is 8% total global footprint. And to put it in the context, it's around 3 times the global emission from aviation, or in the context of national countries, if food waste were a country, it would be the world's 3rd largest emitter after the United States or China. So packaging, an angel or a devil, a part of the problem or a part of the solution. And how can we create packaging that is addressing the challenges and protect the product? So let's think about and talk about sustainable packaging. Start with materials. There's a lot of focus and also confusion when it comes to materials. We are often approached by questions from companies. well, I would like to change plastic for something else. What can I choose? What material I should use? This question, the definition is not right. Because the answer is, probably it will disappoint you, but it depends. And in Packbridge, we are very clear with our message. We don't support any war between materials. Right materials for the right purpose. Because if we talk to a paper producer or carton producer, they'll tell you, my material is better. Yes, from renewable perspective, yes, it is. You talk to a metal producer, they'll tell you, no, my material is better. From recyclable perspective, yes, and it's different or difficult to argue with this logic. And well, should we actually argue with this logic? So how to solve this conundrum? And the suggestion is that we can navigate kind of between three pillars and balance. Packaging that reduces food waste and increases production and line capacity, packaging that increases transport efficiency, and packaging material with low environmental impact. It sounds like self-explanatory, probably some not rocket science, but it is very difficult to fulfill. Easy to empty packaging. So we know how much can be ketchup left or yogurt in the packaging. Right size of the packaging, user-friendly packaging, and informative packaging that we know what to do with this packaging later. Transport, lightweight, well-filled, optimized to pallet and volume. And of course, it would be very nice to spare the resource and reduce the needs for cooling and refrigerate. I will show you some examples later. And packaging material with low environmental impact. So first of all, we start optimizing the use of the material. And we remember hierarchy, recycle hierarchy. First go reduce, then reuse, and then recycle. The origin of material should be from sustainable source, and it should be integrated in the market's recycling system. And this is really, really complicated because even in Europe, we have different recycling system and different regulations. So in other words, fit for purpose material, fit for purpose packaging, resource efficiency, resource recovery. We are talking about circularity, circular loops, and we think about end of life material. And on top of everything, to make the situation even more challenging, we have to remember that achieved degree of circularity is not an indicator for sustainability. And if we compare 80% of glass recycled bottle with 40% of PET recycled bottle, you can see the energy we consume for the glass bottle and for PET bottle. So circularity may be a measure to achieve certain environmental goals, but it cannot be the goal itself. And if you think about, for example, plastic bags, to be climate neutral, we need to use them 2 times. And this is plastic bags that we have taxes and a ban now. So 2 times. But if we use paper bags, we need to use them 42 times. Some examples from the industry: fit to purpose material, removed uncollected packaging. And one more example that I like very much, it's an example from Carlsberg. Before they had plastic wrap around the tins, and then they change it. They find the way. It's very interesting, innovative solution. They glue these tins together, and by that, Carlsberg reduced plastic usage for 76%. They very often in industry they say, okay, everybody can design sustainable packaging. The challenge is to make it real. And it demands cooperation, collaboration, understanding in the value chain. And I would like to show you a case, great example of cooperation and collaboration. City Gross and Multivac. City Gross is our local Swedish retailer. They have 42 shops, and Multivac is the producer of machinery. City Gross is famous for their locally produced meat. They sell, it's one of their specialty to sell locally produced meat. And then they officially announced the case. Then they changed, 2020, then they changed the packaging. So plastic trays, plastic films, they changed it for skin packaging. So it's still plastic. It was supported by communication, why they do it. And let's see the result. So improved shelf life for beef from 4 days to 12, 16, 2 weeks. Pork, 4 days, the same. And minced meat from 24 hours to 6 days. And if you remember that beef has impact of 370 times more than packaging on the environment than the packaging we use. So by that, they reduce food waste for 520 tons per year. It means approximately 1.5 tons of locally produced perfect quality of meat saved daily in only one retailer. Isn't it amazing what we can do? So let's be optimistic. The throwaway culture of today will evolve into one that understands and embraces the role of packaging as a primary means to reduce global food and product waste. So what the lessons we learn from here? Let's talk to each other, know your value chain, collaborate and cooperate. So if one has a problem, maybe another in the value chain has already solution. Collaboration is the key. So I'm in agreement with Veerle, and networking is working. Can we do more? I cannot hear you, but I hope you say yes. And what we can do? Innovations. Packbridge belongs to the innovation sector. One of our tasks is to facilitate innovations. But how can we do that? And I like science, and we know that meetings and networking facilitate innovations. So what I would like to say, innovations are here. We are pretty good equipped with the knowledge. It's not the knowledge we are missing. I think it is sometimes courage to be open, draw conclusion, and move forward. Together is the key. And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So join the network, little commercial, and let's drive things together. And thank you from my side.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Svetlana, for your nice presentation and for the clear explanation about the relation between trends and packaging and why we should move through a sustainable and reasonable packaging. I have enjoyed with a part of green packaging dilemma, and that in effect not all indicators are valid for sustainability. We have questions for you. Let me see. A question from Yvonne Coulomé. What is your opinion about producing packaging from food raw materials?
It is, politically correct. It's complicated, but it depends what material we use. And for example, if I can think like first, we produced potato. We have something maybe left over or potato peels. So in the perfect world, and then from that leftover, we produce packaging. For now, it might not fit the recycle system. In the perfect world, it would be nice, but what is better, to throw these materials or to create extra value, added value from what we have? So it is ethical question, I think, and again, it depends. It depends what we use. Are we feeding people or we are producing packaging? So what is more important? And I think it's each and every case, it's about the same. What packaging is better? So each and every case we should look separately. But the food should be, of course, produced for food and eat. But if we can't do something more of that, yes, that we should do. And that is exactly the development in different material. How can we create material from agricultural second stock generation and all the other things? Hope I answer the question.
Thank you. And we have another interesting question. Ali Al-Geratli asked about, we recently see lots of supermarket dispose grocery and fruits, even if it was packaged by near early time of its expired date, by throwing it in garbage containers instead of distributing it to homeless and poor. From your point of view, what are the alternative action of this unsustainable act and how can this be reduced or managed?
I think it's again a lot of initiative from startups, because you can control this. It needs something from the retailer to control, and then you can offer that. There's different kind of software application that people can come and buy the products close to the expiry date. And if I understand right, that basically it's not forbidden to throw the products. There's some kind of very strict rules in EU that the retailer should take care of the stream.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Svetlana. We have a few more questions, but we will leave them for the debate after Arnau's presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now it's time for the last presentation that will close not only the session of today, but also the whole event. It's our pleasure to present Arnau Queralt, the Director of the Advisory Council for the Sustainable Development of Catalonia and Chair of the European Network of Environment and Sustainable Development Advisory Councils. Moreover, on behalf of the EEAC, he has been observer to the European Commission high-level multi-stakeholder platform on the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals in the EU, and also member of the group of experts on Sustainable Development Goals and Higher Education of Global University Network for Innovation, GUNI. He is member of the steering committee of the Network of Mediterranean Experts on Climate and Environmental Change. Arnau, thank you very much for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Very long names. I mean, very institutions with very long names, but institutions that are also very active, despite of the length. Can you hear me? Because I think that it appears here in the screen a message that says that I am muted, but okay. So thank you for giving me the responsibility of, being the last speaker of the set of webinars. So thank you, and thank you to the Universitat de Girona, and thank you also to Guni for this kind invitation. I will be very brief. I will try to be brief. I keep some key messages from Svetlana, intervention. I try to be always optimistic. I try to be positive. I try to work with partnership, and this is crucial. And I think that when we talk about food, it is important to be aware that, from our perspective, one of the points that we take into account is which vision do we want for the rural environment, and which kind of food do we want to provide with our population. It is not the way we produce food, the agricultural model, the food production system is not neutral in terms not only of environmental impacts, but also social and economic ones. And we are very proud of, we are fully supportive of the 2030 agenda, logo or lemma, sorry, that says that leaving no one behind. And this is also a very important part of our reflection, thinking of future. And the food production or food system is a very complex puzzle with a lot of pieces, and as the more complex it is, the more rich it is. So it's difficult to talk about food system without in a very simple way. But let's try to be precise, and this is why I'm going to use my a short presentation. I hope that I will be able to share with you. Can you see it? I assume that you can see it, because I don't see anyone. So yes or not?
Yes, it's good.
Perfect. So thank you for your feedback. So now today I'm going to briefly introduce you a report that was issued in 2018 by my council. The title, I think it's very clear, and also the image here that illustrates the report. That is speaking of future, how we go towards a productive, sustainable, resilient, healthy, and responsible food system, universally accessible in Catalonia. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So first of all, what is CAT? CAT is the Advisory Council for Sustainable Development of Catalonia. Was created in 1998. And in 2014, we got the permission by the government to draw up static reflections on our own initiative. CAT is an independent body that attached to the government. It was created by a decree, but the members of the council work in an independent, totally independent way, so they can say what they want, what they consider. And the most important thing is that since 2014, they are able to introduce or to raise some new topics on the agenda of the government. So this is a very important point. And responding to a previous request by the Catalan government focusing on how the country, how Catalonia would be able to deal with possible food emergencies in the future. What we told to the government is that due that we are in the European level, in the European Union, there are some mechanisms that can help us to deal with concrete food crisis. But the point is that but we also propose the government to change or to shift the previous request and make an analysis of the whole food system in Catalonia based on the food of the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization definition of food security, which is the food security is, as it says, as it is written here, the food security according to FAO is that individual, household, national, regional, and global levels is achieved when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. This sounds perfect, stimulating, positive, as Svetlana proposed us, but now the point is that we had to articulate the report. We need to articulate the report using this very wide definition. We produced a report. We launched a report in 2018, and we presented it at the Wageningen University in the Netherlands. But after the approval of and the launch of our report, many things have happened. For instance, and you obviously know, the European Union in December 2019, before the pandemic, so this is it seems very far from now, the European Commission presented the EU Green Deal communication. Obviously you know that the EU Green Deal has been developed or will be developed through different initiatives, and one of a crucial one is the Farm to Fork strategy that was approved in 2020, which aims to accelerate the transition to a sustainable food system. And the point is, with 5 main goals. The first one is have a neutral or positive impact on the environment. Second goal is to mitigate climate change and adapt to its impact. And it's very important. You all are aware of the situation. In the Mediterranean, we suffer from especially from climate change, but the projection, the models, the climatic models show us that future will be worse, and so it's really worrying about the comment or the information coming, the data coming from, and the message is coming from science. Then the Farm to Fork makes also this link to the environment and wants to help reversing the loss of biodiversity. But then, and the fourth goal will be to ensure food security, nutrition, and public health. And then it says making sure that everyone has access to sufficient, safe, nutritious, sustainable food, which is not always the case. And you know that we are talking about SDGs, and there are some SDGs related to poverty that have a clear relation with this goal, because not all European people, especially now, and we can see now, but it's not the case. Is the situation is comes from before the crisis, the COVID. We have thousands of people in Europe which are not able to, they have not access to sufficient, safe, nutritious, sustainable food. And then the fifth goal of Farm to Fork is to preserve affordability of food while generating these economic returns. and, as it says, fostering competitiveness of the EU supply sector, and finally promoting fair trade. You know, this, as I said before, the Farm to Fork strategy was approved in 2020. And you know, here when the title of the slide says "From Science to Policy," this is a very clear political instrument. But before we had this, the European, before the approval of the Farm to Fork strategy, we had a lot, dozens or more, I mean, a complete set of reports just asking for the transition towards sustainable food systems. I mean, one case, and I think that you know, or at least you should know the existence of IPES Food and IPES Food, the IPES Food report towards a common food policy for the European Union, which was approved before the approval of the Farm to Fork. But I think it's crucial. It says IPES Food proposes 5 paradigm shifts. The first one is, they are difficult to say which is the first one, but you have ensuring access to land, water, health, and healthy soils, rebuilding climate resilient, healthy agroecosystems, promoting sufficient, healthy, and sustainable diet for all, building fairer, shorter, and cleaner supply chains, and then finally putting trade in the service of sustainable development. At the end, IPES Food in this report proposes new governance architecture for sustainable food systems. Some of these points were reflected in the Farm to Fork strategy. But we need to look back to the past, and we see that in 2013, you know, the Technology Assessment Office presented to the European Parliament, presented the report Option for Sustainable Food and Agriculture in the UE and the European Union. The European Economic and Social Committee Permanent Study Group on Sustainable Food Systems presented a report also in 2016 about the transition towards sustainable food systems. The European Environmental Agency published a report in 2017 about how food systems could contribute to sustainable development. So there are many initiatives highlighting the importance of shifting towards a more sustainable food system. And here we came with a Feeding on Future report, which was presented in 2018. This report makes cost-cutting recommendations for the transition in Catalonia, taking into account that Catalonia's food system is not an isolated one. It's not a closed system. So, any potential change on the world food market will affect, and it affects the Catalan food system. But there are also pressures on food production here in Catalonia. I mean, you have internal pressures. For instance, the loss of fertile soils, and you know that between 1956 and 2018, the agricultural land surface decreased in more than 120,000 hectares in the Barcelona region. This means that the Barcelona region, where the population is mainly concentrated in Catalonia, lost 42% of its agricultural land. I mean, in these 50 years, or for instance, in Catalonia between 2006 and 2016, 6,800 small and medium-sized agricultural farms disappeared. So there are many internal and external pressures, but we need to be positive, and so there are also our report took into account that there are many opportunities arising from future consumption trends. with this interest in healthier diet, sustainable and local production. Coming back to that report, or continue to report for the report, we prepare our recommendations, taking into account the importance of availability to sufficient food, the access to the necessary resources for nutritious diet, the use of food to enjoy this quiet diet, and then also the stability. We make a structure with a way. I mean, we divided the report into parts. One was supply, that's the food supply, and the other was the consumption. We recommended to the whole government, not only the Ministry for Agriculture, because this report was a report to the government, not to a specific one. And the main, I think it's important to say, to remember, highlight, sorry, that our report was not addressed. I mean, one of the main aims of the report was to show to the different ministries that they were also responsible of the food policy. For instance, the Ministry for Culture, for Education, for Health, they were also, I mean, we put it into the table that they were also responsible for this transition to a more sustainable food system. For us, it was a point, and I think I would like to put some stress on this point. So some of the challenges that we identified in that report was that we are losing some of the bases or the elements that ensure the production of food. We are losing soil for different reasons. We are losing population, active population in the agricultural sector. The global loss of biodiversity also has its introduction in Catalonia. So we are seeing, a loss of biodiversity and some ecosystemic services. We also see how we are losing genetic biodiversity of farmed animals and cultivated plants, and these are common goals, common trends. Sorry, at the European Union, but we had to put it very clear in the report. We also have the challenge to increase the efficiency in the use of water, energy, and nutrients, increase the resilience of the food system to climate change, which is a point, which it's really a very warning trend or threat. Let's say threat. Then we also put into the table that we should make a responsible use of antibiotics to stop the increase of microbial resistances. Then on the food consumption side, what we said is that we need to adjust food intake to dietary requirements. We should moderate meat consumption, which is a point that generates some intense debates here. We had also to reduce food waste, maintain high safety standards on the world food chain, and then ensure that everybody has access to appropriate economic resources for acquiring food for a nutritious diet. This not means that we need to lower the prices of the agricultural food products. We need to ensure that the income of families is the one that it should be. I mean, we need to deal with poverty. Some key recommendations. There are plenty of recommendations, and I suggest you to go to the report because we are out of time. But some of them was some of the main recommendations. I put here some of the key recommendations. For instance, that we need to protect, and we suggested the government to protect land for agricultural use, especially the most fertile. And it's a point, that the price I mean, the competition between urban and agricultural soil is a fact, and we need to put. We suggested the government to put the real value of the. I mean, to integrate the externalities, the price of the fertility of the agricultural soil, and to give it the correct value, and it's important, and to protect it, and to as a strategic land for the food production, especially important in case of crisis. We also propose the government to preserve in the territorial policy, or through the land policy, to preserve a landscape mosaic that encourage ecosystem functionality and the preservation of ecosystemic services. We also suggested to the government to improve knowledge on the evolution of climate change, also to make sure that we, or the government and the different actors, provide the rural environmental with services enabling professional activities and adequate and concrete and good living standards. We also support, made the point to support the access of new producers, to new farmers to the rural areas, and especially supporting and supporting the integration, but also recognizing the current role of women into rural economies. These are some of the points. But we made also the point on governance mechanisms, which are, and we had, there are plenty of recommendations. We have plenty of strategic plans, but there is a gap in terms of implementation, and this is why governance is important. The first thing was that we suggested the government to approve a national agreement on food with all key players around the table, discussing the main points, and strongly supporting the goals and the actions included in the national agreement. We also suggested, but in a very strong way, the promotion of the Catalonian Food Council, linked to the national agreement, which is this Food Council should be a driving force behind the agreement, but also behind a strategy that we suggested to the government, because we consider that we lack a global, comprehensive strategy, interministerial, intersectorial food strategy with concrete goals, shifting the current agricultural policies to a comprehensive food policy. And we also asked the government, or proposed the government, to prepare a contingency plan to address food emergencies. And it is a point that it's a matter of intelligence. I think that some countries, from what we know, have this kind of analysis and this plan, and we should also do the same. Okay, then in terms of innovation, for us, innovation is and was at the moment crucial. We have, innovation means, and research and innovation is not only about new plans, there are plenty of issues where innovation should be. For instance, social innovation, or innovation in how to improve rural development. Well, it's not only a technical innovation. The point is that we have plenty, or we have very important centers like the Beta Center at the University of Big, all the work that the University of Girona and others do. We have IRTA, this big institute of research in food, agro-food industry in Catalonia. So have the key players just prepare for boosting research, concrete research and innovation. And the point is that research and innovation, as we said there, as we see now, is crucial for making the share. So every euro that we put in research and innovation is key to prepare our country to go for a more sustainable future. So we need to be, what we suggested here is that the government should take innovation and research as a driver of this shift to a more sustainable food system. I propose you here what we suggested to the also what we explained to the government. It's I personally responsible for this graph, so you can see that I'm not the best one, I mean, in terms of design, etc. But I wanted to use this image to say, okay, when we talk about the food system, we can use, I mean, we can link all the SDGs with this with the idea or the vision of food system. I mean, every SDG needs to be incorporated in the design of food policies, and this means that all political actors in the Catalan government should be also part of this process. You can see here SDG 3, so the health ministry needs to be a key player in the food strategy, in the implementation, in the design and implementation of the food strategy, but also the Ministry for Education, but also the Ministry for Economics, etc. And we integrate, I mean, we cannot talk about food, sustainable food systems without taking into account SDG 5. This means, you know, the reducing the ensuring, you know, the women and gender equality, and it is a crucial point, etc. After our report, and it's not, I'm sorry to say, but I know that it's not a direct consequence of our report, but something, I mean, that we inspire, or this report somehow inspires some actions. So this is the case, for instance, of the strategic plan for the strategic food plan in Catalonia from 2021-2026. That has overall vision, comprehensive vision, holistic vision of the food system in Catalonia. It is also the case, for instance, it was approved just now. We have also in 2019, the Parliament approved the law on agricultural land. In 2020, the Parliament approved also the law on food loss and wastage prevention. And now we are dealing with, we're just working on the rural agenda, the new rural agenda of Catalonia that wants to also to develop how the rural areas in Catalonia can contribute, or is actually are a key part, are a real player in the transition towards a more sustainable development, more sustainable, food system. So the point is how we move. The idea of this, the thing is how we move from a report, from ideas, integrating also some of the ideas coming from previous reports adopted at the international level, and then how all the ideas at the end are implemented and integrated in concrete policies. But it's not only the case of Catalonia as a whole. You need to know that for instance, the metropolitan region of Barcelona is working on a food charter that also wants to promote the transition towards a sustainable food system in that area. So we have many initiatives just running, being implemented, that using concrete data, concrete information coming from science and from advisory bodies like my council and the administration using information is messages to make these strategies and to implement them. Well, that's all. So I'm ready for questions. Anna? if you want, I would like just to finish by inviting people to attend.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay, to attend a webinar on that we're going to organize with the OECD on April 15th about the better policies for sustainable food systems, and that you have shared, or you will share the link with the of where people can register. So they're invited also to see what the OECD and the EEAS network do for the promotion of boosting the sustainable, the shift to sustainable food systems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arnau, for this information and for your presentation and for sharing with us the important challenge of translating science into policies. It's a big important thing to do. You have highlighted in a clear manner that feeding on future is a real challenge, and I think not only in terms of food security, but also in terms of packaging and food safety. Also, we have some questions for you. One about the first one for Carmen Carretero. She says, I am convinced that the only way to achieve food security is an approach that includes environmental, economic, and social sustainability. What can governments do to help food producers to receive fair remuneration for their work?
How many time do we have? I mean, I think it's a question. I mean, we want to have farmers producing food, high quality food, etc. So we have a long list of requirements of what we wish, and we want to produce all this food, high quality food here. But then it's not only the government, it's us. I mean, I would like to know how many people of us buy local and ecological and bio products. How many of us go to big shops to buy? How many people buy these products that we ask for to farmers? I mean, I know that the question of karma. I mean, it's a good point. But the other point is also the responsibility as individuals that we have, in order to support our farmers. It's the point. I mean, our discussions in the council are quite intense on this point. I mean, some people consider that, come on, we cannot subsidize farmers. So we are in an open market. So will so happens. And other people consider no, they are playing a role. It's not only we need, or the government to support them in terms of food production, high quality production, but also with the benefit that they produce in terms of preserving the ecosystemic service, etc. But the point, as Karma said, is that we need to analyze which mechanisms do we use to pay these people for the services they are providing us. It's not only the products that we eat, but all the ecosystemic services that they produce for free. I mean, for free for us, for the urban population, but that has a cost for them. And it's an open debate, but it's a debate. It's one of the main debates.
Okay, we have another question for you, Arnau. Ali Algeradli says, did this report, or did you have results of applying the conservation agriculture, zero tillage approach in sustainable development, and how it affected the soil structure and crops production?
We didn't analyze. I mean, our report did analyze this point at the detail. I must confess this. It was a very. I mean, it's a political report with. I mean, we didn't go into the details, but it's an important point. Sorry for being more precise, because we analyze it.
Okay, we have another question now for Svetlana. Cynthia Luderer says, some specific colors package interfere on ecosystem.
Question, yeah? Okay. Answer from me. What we know that recycling system doesn't like carbon black plastic. There's a long tradition why, for example, carbon black was used for cell meat, because we don't like, sorry to say, to see kind of wet blood, so it doesn't look so nice. So it was carbon black plastic for some specific products. And it is not easy to handle with the system because sensor cannot read that material. But the latest, at least in Sweden, what I've heard from them, we have a company who is responsible for plastic recycling. They say, please throw black plastic in their stream when you sort the plastic, because then they can count how much material and what material they have. There is a lot of innovations that you still can reach black color, but it's not carbon black, and the system and sensor can read it. So I would say first it's carbon black plastic. It is a challenge. And the other way is to avoid using it for the industry. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Svetlana. Another question for you. How can we as consumers push for the more sustainable packaging and help innovations in packaging at individual level, and what can we do?
That is a very good question. Well, I would say to push for sustainable packaging, we consumers have to understand what is sustainable packaging. I would say that we have to trust the industry, because if some materials are in this, or this product packed in this material, it might be very serious reason for that. And we know this example that the industry tried to change and follow the consumer kind of push. We don't want to have plastic, and the result was that the products were thrown because we still cannot reach special barrier property. Each and every case is individual. But what I would say as consumer myself and to all consumer, please sort your packaging. It would be the best what we can do to save the material and be conscious about sorting, because 30% of material that we still can use is in the ordinary trash in Sweden. It's again absolutely latest what we can see, and it's unacceptable, and it is we consumer who do that. So that it would be the best, I think, help to be and think about ourselves, or yeah, as a sustainable consumer, that we are sorting that and we are considerate what we are buying. And you can always make this touch point with the retailers, but it would be nice to ask why it is the reason, and you can contact directly industry if you are curious. But it is, again, the industry should be more transparent with communication about certain type of packaging.
Okay, thank you, Svetlana, for your clear response. And now I have a question for Veerle, a question about the digital transformation. For sure, it will improve crop management in developed countries. But what do you think about developing countries? Is it feasible, since they have limited access to technical and digital solutions? And I guess these kind of countries play an important role in sustainability. What do you think about that?
Sorry, I missed a part of the question, Anna. Can you please repeat?
Yes, I can repeat it. Don't worry, don't worry. My question is about the digital transformation. Okay, then for sure it will improve crop management in developed countries. But what do you think about developing countries, since it's feasible? Because is it feasible for them because they have limited access to technical and digital solutions, and I guess it's more complicated for them. What do you think about this transformation in this kind of countries?
Yeah, indeed, it's true. It's more challenging over there, but also if you look there, we can also through partnering set up platforms let's say, with institutes on rice and etc., that make sure, for instance, all of the farmers over there, they have a cell phone in India. This is not a topic. Can we use this, that, for instance, they make a picture of their crop, for instance, when they have a question, and it's uploaded to the platform, and they are getting directly advice. It can be regarding fertilization, can be regarding crop protection, or maybe other questions, agronomic questions they do have. So I do certainly see possibilities to bring also these kind of technologies into the still developing countries. Because if you think about it, all these Amazon and all these other platforms that are increasing, and certainly in APAC, I think e-commerce is flying a lot. Let's say a lot of people as such have access to digital platforms. Why can't we work together with these companies, for instance, to bring all this data together, and as well to connect these smallholders people to these platforms?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And now a question for Arnau. Arnau, we have here a message and a question.
Okay.
Fundación Triptolemos has developed a mathematical model to quantify the global food system. What do you think is the greatest strength that Catalonia has to face these challenges? Yvonne Colomet asks this.
First of all, I just invite you. You want to contact me in order to explain, to show me that this tool, because it can be really interesting. One of the points is the for me, one of the main points is the quality of institutions and the ecosystem of institutions and people working on this point. I mean, we have talent. This is the point. Okay. Second point is how, I mean, the interest of public institutions, I mean, government and the Catalan government but also local governments on this. The interest of these institutions on the transition towards food system, which was a point that in which some people, some institutions already worked. But it's important to have this coherent framework, this coherent set of strategies, laws, plans, etc. The point here, and this is a key point. So we have a good regulatory or a promising but very new regulatory and strategic framework. This obviously is a point. We have talent in terms of research and innovation. We have also young, I mean, very brave people. Let's say this, very courageous people, just trying to boost this transition. I mean, farmers, but I mean consumers. I mean, people just social in society pushing for it. So we have the possibility of building strong alliances to promote this. Sometimes the weaknesses of our system is that there is a lack of coherence between the different actors. So we have everyone is there. We have all players there. We have everything there, but we need to boost policy coherence. I mean, use planning needs to be coherent with the planning of agriculture land, for instance. This coherence is one of the main weaknesses, but also the lack, let's say, lack of coherence between the species or between what we say and what consumers do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Arnau. And now another question, this for Veerle and Arnau. It says, how do you match the local and the global needs for food consumption, food production, and sustainability? That's a question.
How many years do we have? Veerle, do you want to start?
No, please go ahead.
I just wanted to make
it's many. Yeah, no, but it is many many elements that we can bring forward. Maybe the people who ask the question can be a little bit more specific, because it can be very broad.
Okay. The person that made the question, please, we appreciate if you can be more specific and they can answer in a better way. Question for Svetlana from Ali Algeratli. Can we, in the near future, replace all ordinary packages with disposable and environmental ones in order to achieve the sustainability?
That is very nice. I'm not an oracle, but what they are, you know, we have the law and regulation. And as I said, there's a special law about packaging that we should introduce, and all packaging 2030 should be produced from renewable or recyclable material. It is a step. It is not easy to reach that goal. About disposable, it is very interesting question too. For example, in Sweden, we don't have industrial composing, so different country has different regulation, and it means that we are using material or some packaging for producing biogas. That is, again, it depends. So we cannot have one solution. So there's different way, different steps, and it is going to be step by step, I think. But of course, that is a purpose. So we want to switch on sustainable packaging the way how we understand it. The understanding of sustainable packaging can change for us too. So, but right now the industry really works hard to reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Okay, thank you very much, Svetlana. And another question, this is for Arnau. Considering this report is from 2018, would you add any new recommendations that may be important with the current COVID situation and delivered needs? And if the answer is yes, has the government of Catalonia already adopted some of these recommendations?
You know, here the point is that I'm not responsible for the report, because it's the opinion of a advisory body with 16 members, and I'm the director. But so the report was the opinion of these members. In my case, what I really consider is that, first of all, what I would stress in the report is the importance of innovation and research. This is a crucial point, and sometimes we consider that we do research because governments and the country has money. Sometimes what it should be, I mean, it's the opposite. I mean, those countries investing in research and innovation are more developed and have. I mean, it's a contrary. So I would put more stress on this point, on the importance of boosting innovation and research. And then what I would be personally, I would put the point on the importance of considering food. I mean, we already said in the report that the importance of preserving the food, the agricultural food. But the point is that, especially now, we have seen our fragility. The COVID made us aware of our fragility, and I would suggest to put more stress on the importance of preserving agricultural land. It's a matter of the country we want. Do we want a logistical country? And can we continue using this very valuable fertile soil for logistical purposes, or we should preserve the soil and look as a resilience element? I don't know if you understood me, but I want to put more. In the report, I would, from my personal point of view, I think that we could put more effort on the preservation of the structural points as the agricultural land, in order to be more resilient to future systemic crises.
Okay, thank you. Now we don't have more questions, and I think that now it's time to close this interesting session and the event. We just want to say thank you to the speakers for sharing us with their knowledge, ideas, and point of view, and participants for attending the webinar and collaborate during the debate. In my opinion, the session has been enlightening and we hope fruitful for all of us. And again, thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure.